This is the podcast where we like to ask and answer some of the questions you've always wondered about. Like this one from Mike Spurgeon of West Virginia. Mike wrote in and said he always wondered where the phrase "heard it through the grapevine" came from. Contrary to popular belief, it did not originate with Marvin Gaye, although he did add a lot of soul to it. Truth is, the phrase dates back to the Civil War. Back in the 1860s, the telegraph was kind of like the 19th century version of social media, but with a lot fewer hashtags and a lot more dysentery.
Oh boy, excuse me for a second.
No worries. Telegraph lines were strung haphazardly between towns and trees in a twisting and turning fashion that looked a lot like, wait for it, a grapevine. Now keep in mind, during the Civil War, official information was very slow to come. So the grapevine telegraph, as they called it, became the source for soldiers and the population to learn half-truths, rumors, and gossip. The term "heard it through the grapevine" became shorthand for sketchy or questionable intel. The phrase stuck around, and then when Marvin Gaye sang about it, he made it iconic. And if that's the kind of stuff that fascinates you, well then you are in the right place. Because I've heard it through the grapevine. We've got a lot more topics like that coming up. Not much more to say now other than welcome to the podcast.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for joining us. In the annals of culinary history, nestled somewhere between the discovery of fire and the birth of the deep-fried Twinkie, lies that wobbly jewel of questionable texture, Jell-O.
There's always room for Jell-O.
It's become an icon of potlucks, hospital trays, and dinner parties gone awry.
Does your cat by any chance eat Jell-O?
But have you always wondered where Jell-O came from? Well, it wasn't so much invented. It was more like an accident. Back in 1897, a man by the name of Pearl B. Waite was trying to develop a cough syrup and a laxative tea when he stumbled upon a fruit-flavored gelatin dessert. Instead of calling it Wiggly Yummy Blob or something like that, his wife came up with a much better name,
Jell-O.
Waite tried to market Jell-O but didn't get very far, so he sold the trademark and the idea to orator Francis Woodward. Now, with a first name like Orator, this guy must be pretty good at persuading the public. And he was, through free samples, colorful recipe books, and perhaps by hypnotizing the masses with that mesmerizing wobble. He turned Jell-O into a household name.
It's the dreamy with creamy, soft to chew, good for you, answer to what's for dessert.
Then, in the 1930s, Jell-O became the sponsor of the popular Jack Benny program. In fact, it was Benny's musical director who created the memorable Jell-O jingle. So by the 1950s, Jell-O had become the unchallenged king of American dessert tables. And for some reason, people weren't just content to simply eat it. They began shoving things into it, like carrots, olives, chunks of ham, you name it. If it could be suspended in gelatin, it seemed like people did it. It was a weird time. But in the 60s and 70s, sales began to decline due to changing demographics and changing dinner habits. So once again, shrewd marketing came to the rescue. Bill Cosby, who was beloved at the time, became their spokesperson. He helped introduce brand new products like sugar-free Jell-O, Jell-O Jigglers, and of course,
Jell-O Pudding Pops, frozen pudding on a stick.
And the market share increased dramatically. Today, more than 100 products are currently sold under the Jell-O name, with nearly 500,000 boxes of Jell-O sold each year and over 1 billion Jell-O cups. So the next time you spoon up a shimmering scoop of neon green gelatin, just remember, you're not just eating dessert, you're partaking in a legacy that has jiggled its way into our hearts for well over 100 years.
The Always Wondered podcast.
It's the scream heard round the world. If you've watched films or TV anytime over the last, 60 years or so, you must have heard it. And if you never noticed it before, you will now, because it shows up in some of the biggest films of all time. So if you've always wondered how a seemingly simple scream could become a Hollywood tradition, then open your ears to the story of the Wilhelm scream. This is not just a scream, this is the scream. Like a man who stepped barefoot on a Lego with his entire heart and soul. The Wilhelm scream made its debut in a 1951 film called Distant Drums. The sound effect was created and used when a soldier was bitten by an alligator and then pulled underwater. Not an auspicious beginning. The scream was then tucked away in the Warner Brothers sound library under the name Man Getting Bit by an Alligator and He Screams. And it was reused in many Warner Brothers productions over the years. Now, a guy by the name of Ben Burt enters the scene. He attended USC Film School in the late 1960s and kept noticing that scream turning up in many of the films he studied. He even nicknamed it the Wilhelm Scream, named after a character who died dramatically while screaming in the 1963 Western entitled The Charge at Feather River. Here's the scene where poor Private Wilhelm just wants to enjoy a smoke and instead gets shot by an arrow.
Wilhelm!
Yeah, I'll just fill my pipe.
I guess that's why they put warning labels on tobacco. Now fast forward a few years to the mid-1970s, when George Lucas hired Burt to design the sound on a little film of his called, what was it again? Oh yeah, that's right, Star Wars. Burt was so fond of that scream sound effect that he used it in the original Star Wars movie when a stormtrooper gets shot by Luke Skywalker. And he kept using the sound effect in all of the sequels he worked on and the Indiana Jones movies. Then other filmmakers like Peter Jackson and Quentin Tarantino took notice, and they too started using it. To date, it's been inserted into over 400 movies, TV shows, and video games, including Spider-Man, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Gremlins, even Toy Story. It's the audio equivalent of Where's Waldo, if Waldo was constantly dying in new and horrific ways. But who actually did the scream? It's believed to be actor and musician Sheb Wooley, who appeared in a ton of westerns, including the film Distant Drums, where the sound was first used. Oh, and here's one more weird fact about Sheb Wooley. He also recorded a novelty song that hit #1 on the Billboard charts back in 1958, The Purple People Eater.
It was a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people.
It's ironic, a monster from outer space and not one scream. So, the next time you're watching a movie or TV show, every time a background character is flung from an explosion, slips off a cliff, or is pushed from the top of a skyscraper, take a moment to salute Private Wilhelm and the scream that transcended time, logic, and probably several OSHA violations.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Here's a phrase we've heard our whole lives. When your horse or your voice is a little croaky, someone will say,
"Sounds like you have a frog in your throat."
But have you always wondered where that phrase comes from? Well, the history is absolutely riveting. Get it? Never mind. Back in medieval times, medicine was less about antibiotics and more about guesswork. Long before there were throat lozenges and menthol and wild cherry flavors, there were, well, frogs. Yeah, the remedy for a sore throat was not to gargle with warm salt water or sip tea with honey. It was to shove a small amphibian into your mouth. According to ancient folklore, frogs held magical healing powers. So by placing a live frog in the throat, they believed it could help absorb the illness. Look, I don't make this stuff up, I just report it, okay? And today, 4 out of 5 doctors do not recommend the frog in the mouth method, but the phrase stuck around. And in the 1800s, there actually was a throat lozenge called frog in your throat that claimed to relieve hoarseness, so that pretty much cemented the idiom into our language. Of course, these phrases are always open to debate, so if you have any other thoughts, let us know and we'll hop right on it. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
The Always Wondered podcast.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Remember, new episodes drop each and every Friday, so check them out, tell a friend, and help spread the word. As always, we leave you with one to ponder. Have you always wondered, what's the point of wisdom teeth? And who told them it was okay to show up so late to the party? Well, we'll explore that one on a future episode. Until then, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for listening.
The Always Wondered podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. Feel free to offer suggestions for future topics or simply reach out to alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com.